Right now on KGW News, landslides bringing rocks and trees down on a slope caught on camera in southern Oregon. We have the latest condition on the flooding affecting the region. Plus, one day after a local man's cancer surgery, he's asked to resign from his job at the IRS. A former probationary employee, federal employee, speaks out about his frustration. And later, Millen's Park, officially the second smallest park in the world. Who made the new record and the history behind this Portland landmark. Your news at noon starts right now. We start at noon with this new video showing a landslide in Douglas County. This is from the small town of Kellogg along the Umpqua River. Highway 138 was temporarily closed while crews cleared the trees and mud. It is now back open. Thank you for joining us. I'm China Green. But several communities in Lane and Douglas counties are dealing with flooding and landslides brought on by heavy rains. Flood warnings remain in effect today in some areas. The sheriff's office urging people to not wait for an official notice, but evacuate as soon as they don't feel safe inside their homes. Red Cross has opened shelters in some of the worst hit areas at Cottage Grove Community Center and the Drain Church of Christ. Our Daisy Caballero is headed to the town of Drain, where much of the small town is underwater. She'll have a live report for us starting at 4 o'clock. So flooding is apparently a problem right now.
Yeah, so the good news is the active precipitation part of this is over, and here's Exhibit A, it's dry. This was a weekend rainstorm that racked up, get this, as much as 8 3/4 inches of rain that came down in Curry County. So to get your bearings, here is Roseburg, and then there's Coos Bay. This is Curry County, the most extreme southwestern county in our state. There's Brookings, there's Gold Beach, Port Orford. It's this coastal county that picked up over 8 3/4 inches of rain in some reports. But you go up to Roseburg, and the rain amounts were very impressive as well. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 5.37 came down. You go farther north, Eugene was kind of the gateway of where the rain really started to pick up, but you really had to get south of Lane County into Douglas County to find the flooding issues. And as we mentioned, we still have warnings in effect for these two rivers down in Douglas County, the Umpqua River. This thing is 4.6 feet above flood stage. It quickly came up. It's expected, hard to believe, but it's expected to be back in its banks later today. Now the Cocoa River in Coos County, more than 3.5 feet above flood stage. That one is not expected to come down as quickly, and it could be Wednesday before it gets back in its banks. There was remember on Friday, we had a blanket flood watch that was up on a line from about Albany to Lincoln City and southward. That has been dropped. So we just have the individual river warnings that I mentioned about. The only thing on the watch warning map now is a new advisory for snow in the Cascades starting at 5 o'clock today and going into tomorrow. Right now, we're seeing showers pick up, but so far Portland is dry. We'll have your afternoon forecast coming up. Current temperature, 49 degrees. Back to you.
Thank you, Rod. Now at noon, one person was injured from a residential fire this morning. Portland Fire responded to a home in southeast Portland near 106th and Stark Street just after 9:30. The person injured has been taken to the hospital. The officers say 2 construction workers across the street were the first to notice the fire and knocked on the door of a house nearby. The neighbor and the workers helped rescue the person who was just a few steps into that burning home. Portland Fire stresses the importance of smoke detectors.
So always make sure that you've got an actively working smoke detector in your residence. Check that regularly, replace it if needed.
One dog was removed from the house too and suffered no injury. An update this afternoon, the driver who crashed his car into a Beaverton restaurant is identified as 65-year-old John Marcus Dragoo. He was arrested on scene and charged with DUI and other charges, including reckless driving and criminal mischief. This crash happened around 12:30 yesterday afternoon at Togo Sandwiches along Southwest Beaverton Hillsdale Highway. Police say luckily no one was hurt, but the car almost hit a customer. Developing this afternoon, Portland police are investigating a shooting that left one woman dead. It happened on Southeast 144th Avenue and Harrison Street in the Centennial neighborhood just after 12:30 this morning. Police were responding to reports of a shooting. When they got there, they found one woman dead. No word on any suspects. If you know anything about this case, you're asked to contact Portland Police. As part of an effort to crack down on impaired drivers over St. Patrick's Day weekend, Portland police conducted 260 traffic stops, issued 172 citations, and arrested 11 people just through Saturday night. Most of the arrests were impaired drivers. Many of the tickets were for speeding violations and unlawful use of lanes. Law enforcement hopes this initiative will lead to fewer tragedies.
And the hardest part for me is the very end of the call out. It's when I have to go to the residence where the person lived and tell their loved ones that they're not coming home. And the sad thing about it is that these crashes are entirely preventable.
The police operation will continue today and tonight for the actual St. Patrick's Day. Law enforcement is urging anyone celebrating to have a designated driver or use mass transit or taxis to get home safely. In national headlines this afternoon, the Trump administration transferred more than 200 immigrants to El Salvador over the weekend. The White House says the immigrants transferred were Venezuelan gang members. A federal judge blocked the move, ordering the deportation flights to come back to the United States. But the Trump administration appealed, arguing it was issued after the planes had already left U.S. territory.
These are dedicated people who took the oath of office to try and create positive change, and they believe strongly in that.
Meantime, a former federal probationary employee is speaking out. He received a termination letter last month as he was recovering from surgery. Celine Stevens spoke to a local man who asked to stay anonymous.
The day after I returned from the hospital, I received my official notice of termination on February 20th.
This is part of the termination letter this former federal probationary employee with the IRS received after working in that position for 7 months.
It was quite a blow when I received that notice of termination. To be told that our positions were being terminated based on performance was a real slap in the face.
That letter followed him receiving an email at the end of January requesting his resignation, with the deadline to decide being on February 6th, 1 day after surgery for his cancer that had returned.
I chose not to accept that offer. One, being concerned about my health, and two, just not certain of whether or not the offer was valid.
But then on February 20th, he learned he was terminated.
It really struck deep in that I took this position with a great deal of pride. I also was told and believed that my position with the federal government was going to be secure and offer financial stability and long-term security, and something that I could eventually retire with.
He's not the only one. The Trump administration has cut thousands of federal workers from a range of departments across the board to intentionally reduce the federal workforce, including from the IRS, the Department of Veterans Affairs, the Education Department, and more.
When we cut, we want to cut, but we want to cut the people that aren't working or not doing a good job. We're keeping the best people.
However, federal judges have ordered the thousands fired to be temporarily reinstated, but this former employee says he still doesn't know where his position stands, and he wants to protect his chances.
There is a real fear of reprisal, and I do not wish to put my face or name out there and jeopardize my reinstatement.
He says he believes there was a better way to streamline the federal government, and now he's left to pick up the pieces.
To put this amount of stress and uncertainty on people's lives who have devoted themselves to trying to improve this nation is just a complete disregard for what makes this country great.
Celine.
A new series kicking off tonight on The Story called Damage Control dives into the growing number of lawsuits against major chemical hair relaxer companies. Thousands of women across the country claim these products are linked to cancer. We'll explore the science behind the claims, the ongoing legal battle, and why some big companies deny responsibility. Hear from plaintiffs, stylists, and medical experts about the risks, the lack of regulation, and the alternatives women are turning to.
As early as 1997 is when we first started asking about women's experience with using chemical hair relaxers.
I'm happy that we are talking about products and holding all parties accountable.
Damage Control will air this week on The Story at 6:30 and is streaming now on our TV app KGW+.